What's up, guys? I hope you're doing fine. My name is Pepe Cuenca, and I am a Spanish Grandmaster. So you guys know, the USA Championship is taking place right now, with a lot of strong Grandmasters. For example, Fabiano Caruana, Hikaru Nakamura, Wesley So, and some from the old guard like Kamsky. This year, this championship is really interesting because the first, second, and third will be playing a blitz tournament with Kasparov. So the fourth of them will be playing a blitz tournament after the US Championship, and this will be really extremely interesting to watch. And then, what am I doing here today? Well, I'll be trying to analyze the game of the day. It was a short game, but really interesting game. A victory for Wesley So against Kamsky. And yeah, I will stop talking. I'm talking too much, I know, and then we'll just focus on analyzing the game. So Wesley So decided to open with e4. Kamsky replied with e5, knight f3, knight e6, bishop e5. What a surprise, right? Yeah, the real Lopez again. And here Kamsky decided to go for a6, one of the main lines. The other main lines, as you guys know, is the Berlin defense that follows after knight f6. And as you guys know, the main line goes after castles, knight takes e4, d4, knight d6, bishop takes, d takes e5, knight f5, and queen takes d8. And this endgame has been played thousands or hundreds of times in the top tournaments. So in this game they decided to go for a6, and of course we have several options now. For example, bishop takes c6 is the exchange variation of the Spanish, but bishop a4 is the main line. Now knight f6, short castles, and bishop e7. So here rook e1 is the main line. The other another interesting choice is the move d3. Actually, Peter Builder recorded a series about that in Chess 24, so I recommend you to watch this series. It's extremely interesting, of course. Alright, so rook e1, b5, bishop b3, and d6. The other main line is just castles, where we can actually transpose to a Marshall opening after c3, d5. There is an interesting sacrifice for black, like this is known as the Marshall, rook e5, and then c6, and black has a lot of counterplay, bishop d6, the queen can come to h4, and the king here looks a little bit abandoned, but of course white is a pawn up, so this is a really interesting opening as well. But Kamsky decided to go d6, and now black is threatening some kind of small trick, like he wants to go knight a5 here in this position, of course winning the bishop pair, because we don't have any square for our beautiful bishop on b3. That's why normally c3 is played, because now not after knight a5 we have this square and c2 for our bishop. Yeah, so black castled here now in this position, and now h3. Yeah, and now you can see here there are many arrows. the knight normally wants to go to d2, then to f1, and then to g3, where actually you can jump to f5 later. This is actually a really good square for the knight, the g3 square. You actually also defend the e4 pawn. And black has several options here now. So one of them is what was played in the game, knight b8, the Breyer style move, that you can actually go to d7 and then prepare c5. The bishop can come to b7. In this diagonal you can put some pressure on e4. It looks like a sad move, right? Just retreating your knight, but actually it's a really interesting move. Of course there are other options in this position, bishop b7 for example, or knight a5 here. Both are main lines, but knight b8 is of course still very interesting. Now that the knight has gone back, it's interesting just to go in one go to d4. Kamsky played knight bd7. This is the most natural move, because you don't want to give up the center after e takes, c takes. Now white can develop his knight by c3, and then you have a lot of space. Yeah, so normally black wants to keep the tension in the center with knight bd7, and here Wesley So played knight bd2, really common move, just aiming to go to f1 and then g3. And now bishop d7, and this is another important moment of the game. You actually want to continue with this plan that I told you guys, knight f1 and knight g3, but the problem is now that you cannot go knight f1, because after e takes, the pawn on e4 is hanging. That's why bishop c2 is a really interesting move, because you put more defense on this e4 pawn, and now you are ready to go knight f1. Yeah, that's the reason why bishop c2 is played here in this position. Kamsky played rook e8. Now that the bishop is not on this diagonal, is possible. It's not that scary to go rook e8. So when the bishop is on b3, yeah, maybe knight g5 can come, and then the f7 pawn is extremely weak. But now that the rook has come to e8, that the bishop has come to c2, rook e8 is an interesting move. So knight f1. Bishop f8. Now of course black is intending to capture on d4, and then the e4 pawn is hanging. So but now that's why we play knight g3. We are just on time to defend the e4 pawn. And then g6. This is a natural move. You control f5. The bishop wanna come to g7, right? Yeah. And here most played move was a4 here in this position, or b3. But Wesley So decided to go for a move that is not played so often, bishop g5, but still has been played in quite some games. The idea is quite simple. You put a pin here on this knight, and then if black wants to kick you out from there after playing h6, this pawn will be a little bit weak after later in the game, as you will see actually. So this is what Kamsky played. This is of course a natural move. You want to remove this bishop from this annoying pin. So h6, and now bishop d2. You don't want to go to e3, because then after e takes d4, this pawn could be extremely weak, yeah, because the rook is not defending e4 anymore. So bishop g7, and now Wesley So decided to go for a4 here in this position, and Kamsky played c6. c5 was another option, yeah. And normally in this kind of positions, white closes the center with d5, and then black tries to create a interesting square for the knight, where you can actually put some pressure on e4, jump to d3 later, and then white can answer with b4. This would be another story, but there have been some games in these positions. So c6 was not that played. And now Wesley So decides something interesting. He takes on b5 and then takes on a8. Okay, you have exchanged some pieces, but now the queen is a bit far away from the action that is going to take place on the king side actually. Now Wesley So decided to go for knight h4. This is a really interesting move. Now that the pawn is on h6, there's a lot of interesting sacrifices coming to f5, yeah? Coming to f5, then another knight can come, and then h6 is really weak. But okay, it still looks that black hasn't got any problem, yeah? Now a natural move, queen d8. This knight is not defended here, so now you can maybe threat, maybe knight takes e4 in some positions, not now because you can take just with the rook, but maybe knight h7, and then you force this knight back to f3. So knight d8, queen d8, sorry, really interesting move. Wesley So decided to go for queen c1. Actually, the h6 pawn is really weak, and yeah. And now this is the key moment of the game, where actually Kamsky made a huge mistake. But of course, but I mean, this move was really natural. So the move that the engine was recommending was knight h7. Really natural move as well, just attacking this knight, forcing this knight back to f3, and then after some move like h5, okay, maybe after bishop h6, white is slightly better. You have a little bit of space, but of course black's position looks still very solid. And then this could have been another story, but instead he decided to go for king h7. And now the key moment of the game, Wesley So plays a really strong move. Boom! Ba-boom! Knight f5, sacrificing the knight, putting some pressure on h6, and of course the only move now is just g takes f5. You have to upset the challenge, otherwise you are attacking on d6, you are attacking on h6, you cannot defend both, so you have to accept the challenge and take this knight. But now, as you can see, now the position is extremely difficult. We will see that now you are threatening the h6 pawn, you want to take on d6 as well. So if you want to defend the h6 pawn, for example, let's say something like h5, you can just take on d6, and then there is a double attack on the bishop on b7 and in the rook on e8, yeah? So it's not that simple. That's why Kamsky decided to go for rook e6, that not also put an eye on h6, but also defends the most important pawn, the d6 pawn, yeah? After rook e6, now bishop h6 was played, and then black is in a lot of trouble. You cannot take, of course, on h6, because queen comes, and then checkmate and bye-bye, yeah? So you cannot take there, and then for example some move like bishop h8. There are many moves. You can try to play d5, and then when this if c takes d5, e takes d5, this diagonal will be extremely dangerous for black. And you can also try queen g5 and a queen g4, something like this, or bishop g7 is an idea when the queen is on g5, then just to come on to h6. But alright, he played knight e8, and now Wesley So decided to go for bishop g5. And now it's another important moment. The Jing was suggesting queen a8, but okay, the queen against is far away from the action, and then for example, bishop b3 I think is a good move. Then you cannot even move the rook here, so because f7 pawn is extremely weak, f7 falls, then it's the end of the story. Yeah. Another interesting move is just queen to d1, coming to h5, and then black is in a lot of troubles actually. So he decided to go bishop f6, a really natural move, and then probably Kamsky missed the following continuation that actually happened in the game. After bishop f6, queen f6, then really strong move, boom, d5, yeah, d5. And of course you can now you cannot take now on d5. After e takes d5, you want to be greedy and take all the pawns because you are extremely hungry. So then this runs into knight e3 check. Double attack, because then we will capture this tasty bishop on d5. It has a really good curry sauce, and then we can take it. And after rook e7, maybe Kamsky was calculating, okay, maybe knight takes e7, queen takes e7. The position looks still not so good, but I have two pieces for the rook, so maybe I mean it's enough to hold, yeah. But then there's a really amazing and strong move here, just g4, yeah, g4. And now the idea is that actually the rook cannot move, and then the next move is g5, deviating the queen from the defense of the rook on e7, and actually the position is just lost. So if you will try to play something like knight f8 to be able to move your rook, then just g5 is coming, and then after queen somewhere, let's say for example g6 or h8, you will just take this beautiful rook that is so tasty, and then you will win just a game. That's why after g4, Kamsky decided to resign in this position. So first victory for Wesley So. You guys know you can follow all the games in our webpage in Chess24. We have commentary in English and Spanish for those who don't speak English. And yeah, this was all for today. I hope you're having fun with all your friends and family. And yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.